Welcome back. It's Lach and Raph. And as always, we are on a mission to dramatically improve the health and fitness of Australia's business executives and leaders, which is why today we're going to be talking about blood work, getting your blood tested for all sorts of things: hormones, vitamins, minerals, potentially preventing for future issues or diseases that may be asymptomatic at this point that we want to catch early, or potentially looking at things that are going on in your life. Hey, I'm a bit tired, or I'm gaining a bit of weight, or things just aren't recovering like they used to. Maybe the blood work's going to have some answers, and it's becoming very popular. And I think it's one of the most exciting and most evidence-backed emerging fields that everyone will start to incorporate in their lives. So we're going to tackle it from a preventative and optimization standpoint. And we're going to talk about different approaches to it as well.
Yeah, this is like one of those fitness fads that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And it's not going away. It's not going away because it's been around for an extremely long time. I don't know how I'm doing blood tests for a long time. It's just that it's only been in the medical field, like when you're already got a problem. And now it has entered the, just
Health and
general,
wellness.
preventative type of world, and it is not going away. It's definitely something, a bit more of the wealthier type of clientele I've been doing for a longer time, and now it's definitely hitting the masses, which is extremely exciting. So we're going to go into it. Loads of our clients, part of our programs, do blood work. Two major reasons why it's essential. First one is preventative health, and the second one is optimizing performance. So preventative health, this is really the realm of doctors, and this is getting regular blood work with doctor guidance, and it is critical for early detection of health issues, because there's a lot of stuff that you can see on a blood test, such as high cholesterol, pre-diabetes, hormone imbalances, that you just cannot know without getting a blood test. There is literally no way. No, even the best doctor in the planet's not like, yep, looking at you, cholesterol's high.
Yeah.
You know what? They're probably pretty good at guessing, but they still got to know. Right? They still got to know, and sometimes they're surprised. Very, very often they're surprised, and this is where you do need a doctor. There's no way around this. You need a doctor. We work with doctors, and you need to get those tests done. Very likely, you may be doing all these tests with doctors. Problem we find usually is that because a lot of these these tests are subsidized by the government, doctors are not meant to just waste the government's money. So they're meant to get tests done when there's a real need to get the test. We feel like, hey, let's, we're going for longevity here with executives. Let's leave no stone unturned. So this would be, if you're not part of the locker room, it would be working with whoever you work with to get, hey, what are more tests I could do to just be more preventative in my approach to health. I don't know if you've ever been to a doctor, but for a lot of doctors are very hesitant to order blood tests unless they feel like there's a really good reason. That might not be the best doctor for you.
Everyone's had the experience, especially men, who go in and they go, oh, I want to test my testosterone.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, why?
Yeah.
Oh, well, because I just want to know where it's at. Well, do you have any symptoms? No, I feel pretty normal, but I would just like to know where it's at. I'm not going to test you for it.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
And it's a shame because getting blood tests and not doing anything about them is perfectly fine.
Yeah, just knowing, okay, I tick all the boxes, I'm healthy.
It's like saying, dude, no point weighing stuff unless you're going to go on a crazy diet. No, it's actually pretty good just to actually see where you're at in terms of your weight. You don't need to actually take action on it. In fact, it's awesome to get that as early as possible, because if you get that done when you're younger, maybe 20s or 30s, it's a great comparison point to later in your life where you get your blood tests, because blood tests are individual. So it's really good for doctors to know, hey, what actually was your testosterone levels when you were 28, when you were 33? Because now at 47, this might be alarming, or maybe it's always been like that.
Yeah.
So get those tests done. Where I want to spend a bit more time is optimizing performance, right? Which is a bit more of like the new realm here, and really where doctors probably don't put a lot of time and finances towards. So blood work can not just be for health screening, it can be to optimize performance. How? Key biomarkers, testosterone, vitamin D, thyroid function, other hormones. These are ones that directly impact physical and mental performance, and you need to get them tested to find out. So here are some examples of how we've done this. One, vitamin D supplementation. So a lot of clients will come to us, me included. Mine was as low as 68 on the test, and it's recommended up to 100, 150 is really the ideal range for your vitamin D.
What's the top of the range?
150.
Okay.
And it's not one that's ideal. You don't want to get to 200. That's worse.
Yeah.
But very rare, I would say, extremely rare. People actually have that. So yeah, I mean, just really critical for energy and immune function. You notice the difference. You won't notice it. Like I noticed no difference, like 68 to like 70. But I got to 150, and that was through supplementation, right? And it actually took about 4 rounds of blood tests over 2 years to get to 150. And every time it was it was basically not enough. It was the wrong supplement. I needed like a K2 with vitamin D. Eventually, long story, got there. And yeah, it's not that easy, right? It's not like you just take one blood test. I'll just take one pill of vitamin D a day. No, you need a retest. Might work in summer, stops working in winter, right? You're not getting as much sunlight. So that's a really good example. Another one people might not have ever thought about before blood test was low sodium. So we had a hard training client that could see the low sodium levels on the blood test. Hey, we need to start using electrolytes as part of our hard training, right? Maybe it was fine before they joined the gym. Then they start training for a marathon in summer in Australia. All of a sudden they're sweating 10 times more than they used to. They're not changing their electrolytes or their hydration plan. Shows up on a blood test.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Last, personalized example before we get into some bigger examples with you and with other clients would be adjusting saturated fat intake for a client to manage cholesterol levels. There are some times we'll say, yeah, that's a pretty healthy amount of saturated fat. That's fine. It is for 10 clients. The 11th one, it's not. Why? Because we're looking at their LDL, we're looking at the cholesterol levels in the blood work. Hey, it's just for you, your tolerance to saturated fat, unfortunately, is lower than other people. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's common.
You don't really care that you love steak. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just like how it's going to be for you. Still can enjoy the foods you love, but we've got to work on managing that. Maybe we need to get that down to 10% of your calorie intake. So saturated fat, vitamin D, sodium, they're just like one of many examples where we've optimized energy levels, long-term health levels, just through looking at blood tests and making adjustments to their nutrition and supplement strategy.
So I'll give an example of a deeper example of recently when I did some blood tests. So I probably test my blood anywhere from every 4 to 6 months. And I was doing more tests at the start of the year. And one thing that started to show up were some issues around iron intake. So when your body stores iron, we call stored iron ferritin. It was extremely high. It was like off the charts high. And for a lot of people that it's off the charts high, having too much stored iron, they have a condition called hematomacrosis. It's one of the most common genetic issues that people have. It mostly comes from people that are from like Northern European descent. So I have a bit of lineage there. So they're like, oh, makes sense. Your dad's lineage is Scottish. Let's just do the gene test. I tested negative for the gene test, so I don't have hematomacrosis. So we then started to look at lifestyle and diet related things. I did another blood test and started also noticing that some of the blood markers, the biomarkers related to gut health, were also starting to tank out and go into the red, yellow and red. And we had a specialist look at it and he goes, look, you may have some gut health issues. I recommend taking some like prebiotics, probiotics, some different peptides as well to kind of improve your gut health. At the same time, I had that other doctors telling me, let's trial taking out red meat for at least 6 months, see if we can bring it down. So very reluctantly took red meat out of my diet, was training normally, was eating normally, was sleeping well, felt pretty good. In that 6 month period, I wouldn't say a lot of things changed in terms of how I felt because having too much stored iron is asymptomatic. If you have too much stored iron for decades, you start getting organ failure later in life. Wow. So it is a serious thing you have to address.
Which is such a good example of why you got to get a blood test.
Yeah, because it's asymptomatic.
There are a lot of things like that. It's similar to how people can have cancers growing, you can't feel a thing.
Yeah. So anyway, I get the take it out for 6 months. I get my blood tested again and I get my DEXA scan as well. I've put on about 2.5 kilos of lean muscle mass, which is insane for anyone that's been training as long as I have without changing any of your training.
Yeah, it's insane gains.
Insane. Basically, you get accused of taking, steroids.
Yeah.
That's how insane it was. So the body completely reacted positively by taking red meat out of my diet. I was probably having it 5 to 6 times a week. And I started eating more fiber, soluble, insoluble fiber, started taking some more probiotics, greens powders, fixed my gut, all my blood work improved. So my ferritin, my stored iron came down and all the blood biomarkers that were related to gut health all started to move into the green as well. And as a result, my body responded well. I was able to absorb more of the nutrients. So I started absorbing my protein better, my carbohydrates, fats, all that sort of stuff. Digestion improved. The stool improved as well. So many things improved that I just wasn't really paying attention to, wasn't destroying. And now I'm just way healthier, way more optimized. And it was thanks to multiple rounds of blood tests and some, specialists and some doctors looking at it and going, okay, let's try this, let's try that. So that is really a good example of an optimization standpoint. People would have looked at me before that and said, dude, you are super healthy. You look great. Like there's no issues here. but you can always get better. You can always optimize. And that's a great example of optimization.
Perfect, right? So wrap it up. How often do you need the blood test? Really, it's individual. We like to say once a year is a minimum, right? Once a year is really good. But a lot of people, and I would say most executives that we work with, fit into a camp of people that need to do it more than once a year. Examples of that might be women over the age of 40, right? There's going to be hormonal changes as they get before menopause, during menopause. So they might need to do blood tests more often than that and make sure they're doing it particular days of the cycle. Another example would be if you're just making big changes. So maybe you're like starting to take new medications, right? Really good idea. See what's happening. Maybe you're just doing a lifestyle overhaul. Really good to like, hey, let's take blood work before we like lose all this weight, and let's see the difference, right? Because then it's going to be confusing if you know you're doing it after and those types of things. And a big one is like you do a blood test, you introduce a whole bunch of supplements or a change. You really need to do another one at least about 4 months later to see what's happening and if the like supplements are working or you need to change them up. So once you get into those types of realms, you're looking at probably more like 3 times a year. There is definitely too much, which would be like you take a blood test, you include a new supplement like vitamin D, you do it 2 weeks later. It's just not long enough. Most of these things take at least 12 to 13 weeks to see a real difference in the blood work.
Yeah. And probably the final thing in terms of just a cost saving perspective is a lot of people that are curious about optimization, being healthier, start taking supplements. They start taking magnesium, calcium, vitamin D, all these things that they know they should take, omega-3s, all that sort of stuff. Your blood work was also just a great way to tell you what supplements you should actually take.
Yeah.
You know, you go and spend $600-700 on a round of blood testing. That could save you thousands of dollars worth of supplements that you didn't need in the future.
Taking vitamin D, it's already optimal. There's no point.
No point.
There's no point. You're just enriching the vitamin D companies, right? Unnecessary supplements. And then I'll leave you one other one. We use a company. People always ask, where do I get blood test? Where do I get a blood test? With us, we'll take care of it. But if you want to just find somewhere to do it in Australia, we like iScreen.com.au. There are more. And basically what that does, it just means that you just basically just pay for it rather than getting a like bulk build. But for like $200 to $300, you can get a really, really comprehensive test. A specific male one, a specific female one, and it'll also have all the reference ranges of where you should likely be on those markers, and that might see those results and encourage you to take the next step.
Absolutely. Awesome. So that's why blood work's important. That's why it's going to stay, because the medical world is now crossing with wellness, and I think this is kind of the first frontier. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that's encouraged some of you who haven't tested your bloods to go get them tested. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to get the information in this episode and more, you can download the 30-day health optimization blueprint, which is all the tools and tactics that we use with our clients every day for 30 days. We'll deliver you an email in your inbox. Just head to lockerroomgym.com/blueprint to get the emails. That's lockerroomgym.com/blueprint.